Websites exist to communicate, to tell about a person, a hobby, a collection, an organization, an event, or an activity. In order to communicate effectively, you need a compelling story, content of interest to your audience. A pleasing appearance holds the eye and conveys information. A clear way to navigate among the pages of the site, intuitive, and a responsive user interface provides feedback to user actions and requests. In our approach, a website will unfold in a natural way based on the choices we make. My strategy for the course. The lectures, videos will draw on my experience in developing a website for a nonprofit, the Denver Takayama Sister City Committee, including subsites for trips to Japan. Much of what I learned doing that work built on what I had learned earlier when I developed a website for my technical training business, The Trainer's Friend. And all this is additionally informed by my new business of creating websites for groups traveling together, the Global Travel Factory. The examples for the lectures will be based on the Sister City site https://www.trainersfriend.com/Takayama. The labs for the course will be based on a parallel model, a hypothetical book club whose members decide to take a trip to Europe to visit some sites from a book they've read and discussed. I'm confident you can transfer all we cover here to the situations you will find yourself in when creating websites for yourselves or your customers. And I'm hopeful you'll find creative applications of the techniques discussed here that I haven't even thought of. Starter files. Since this is not a course in typing, I've provided a number of files to use in the labs to get you going. These files will also contain the files mentioned in lecture, so you can recreate the points demonstrated. For those taking this course on the web page for this lesson includes instructions on how to download the files. For those following along on YouTube, I've provided links to the files for you to download. See the text accompanying this video. However, the instructions for the labs themselves are only available for those following along on the web version. Having a small set of starter files to get you going on an HTML page is a great time saver. The trick is not to carry too much over from one project to the next. You end up with leftover remnants from earlier projects that are never used and just clutter up your files. So we'll have a directory, Advanced Web Files, with a few text files and 4 subdirectories, CGIs, docs, images, and style parts, all discussed in due time. I'll start with 2 of the text files, html_starter.txt, which provides a structure for all our HTML pages, and workstyles.css, which provides some basic style rules. Now here's html_starter.txt. A doc type statement, copyright note, and then my HTML element, lang equals en, and then within that the head and the body. And the head has 3 sub-elements, a meta for charset UTF-8, a link to our style sheet, and a title which says, replace this title, which you will do each time you work with this file. And then the body is there, but it's empty. So to work with this file, of course, from Windows Explorer, you double-click on the file name to open it in Notepad, code your changes, then save the result under a different name with a suffix of .html. And here's workstyles.css. By setting the font family and the body rule, all nested elements on the page will have the same font family automatically, unless explicitly overridden. The H1 rule sets a font size and weight and ensures the content is centered. The default font for paragraph elements will be 12-point normal. I always seem to have a need for setting text to have red or blue color and or to be centered or boldface, so these rules set up classes I can use whenever needed. The CGIs directory holds some CGIs useful for some labs, as well as some starter CGI code, written in PHP, for later work. The Docs directory holds some PDF files I used in my website, probably obsolete by the time you're taking the course, but just use as examples. The Images directory contains a logo file I use, as well as some background patterns and a picture I took on a trip to Japan. And the Style Parts directory contains a few image files I use in constructing some of my pages. Your home page. Every website has a home page, the default place a user lands if they just key in the URL for your domain name. The default home page is usually named index.html, but you can configure things differently. Your home page sets the tone for the whole website. Your viewers expect that other pages on your site will follow the same general layouts, fonts, and color schemes, recognizing that certain pages may require different layouts due to the nature of their content. Nonetheless, you want it all to hang together. Layout choices. There are an almost unlimited number of options for page layout, but some basics can provide you with strong guidance. Do you have a logo you need to display? Typically, you have a large font size page title next to your logo, or centered at the top if you don't have a logo. Your body should be organized into sections. For example, my sister city site had these kinds of content: activities and events of our committee, links to reference and planning documents such as committee calendar for the year, updated as things change and time goes on, a planned budget for the committee, a paper on our organization and how it fits into the larger community, and a paper about my email philosophy. Then a section on upcoming events for other organizations related to us, and then end-of-page info, contact information, privacy policy, copyright, and date last updated. So initially, I can sketch out the pieces. A common recommendation that I agree with is to stay away from the computer at this point, draw a sketch, a process called wireframing. For example, I roughed this out on paper and then I keyed it into the computer so it would look presentable. So here we have our logo area next to the title, then our upcoming activities section, our links to papers and documents section, our links to related group activities, and then the end of page information. Now, we discussed getting a logo in the previous course. The page title line seems like a natural for an H1 element, and the three major sections could probably use P and/or div tags to set them off. The end of page info will just use P tags initially. We're starting to get enough info content that we will need to pay attention to adding pages and then the necessary navigation to get around, discussed in a later lesson. So, for a first cut, set up the H1 element that includes an image element for the logo, as shown here. That will display this way. I think we can improve this by having the logo closer to the top, having the text higher on the page, and breaking up the line of text. Regarding the logo being close to the top, that's probably due to a browser default. I'd override this by setting a margin 0 value in a class. Instead of forcing this for all H1 elements, I'd set up this kind of a rule: h1.topLogo, margin :0, semicolon. And to get the text higher on the page, I think setting up a class to float the image to the left would work, so I add this style rule, .left, float left. Finally, to break up the line, I'd simply add a BR element, so our initial take now looks like this. And I've shown in red the changes. And that looks like this. And this implements the top section of our design. A quick recap: in this session, we looked at sketching out wireframing, our general web page layout, and then we worked on getting the top part implemented. Coming up, in the next video, we look at coding the rest of the page using our design and some suggested content. See you there!